Good day, everyone. You're welcome to week 8 of our online facilitation. Today, how was our day? I hope that we had a good day, and we are on week 8 of our online facilitation. And today, as I introduced or made mention last week when we met, that this week we'll be having feedback or interaction from students and relating with ourselves on what we have covered so far from week 1 to week 4. And I want to get your feedback on what you have find difficult in understanding from the inception of this semester. And so basically what we'll be doing today is to have feedback. Okay, you're welcome. And Joanna, thank you for joining. Like I said that today is more of interaction session. So I will expect you to ask question and I will ask you question and I expect you to respond. And like I always say that it is important that students put on their video for me to see the student I'm facilitating. So kindly on your video so that we can see ourselves. So in this course, NSC 303, we have covered a lot. And in preparation for our exams, we want to get feedback. You have gone through your course materials, the instructional PowerPoint video. We've had class sessions. You have done your assignments. So let me have your feedback on what we have covered so far. So far, are there questions? Are there areas that you want me to expatiate? Let me get feedback from you before I ask my own question, because it's an interaction. You talk to me, I talk to you. There are areas that I will ask you questions to be sure that you understood what we have covered from unit 1 to unit, I think unit 5, yeah. Last week, Monday, when we met, we finalized the unit where we talked about the evaluation of health services. So are there questions or contributions on what we have covered? Okay, I'm going to ask you a question. Let's say in an exam, for those of us that we are online, if you meet a question like, what is primary health care? How will you respond? What is primary health care? For those of us that we are live in session, can you put your response on the chat? You know, under units, I think unit 2, yeah, under unit 2, we define PAC. So from you now, if you are asked, what is primary health care? How will you define primary health care? And during the facilitation, don't forget that I gave you the 3 A's that you must take notes while defining primary health care. So can you give back what we have taught now? Put on the chat, what is primary health care? Those are likely questions that you should expect. Like I always say each week that we've met, that you're not going to be asked outside of what we have covered. Basically, what you will be asked or examined on is what we have covered. And so it's part of what we have covered what is primary health care according to WHO? Remember we said that, as it was defined during the 1978 Alma Ata Declaration. How did they define PHC, primary health care? So those of us that we have been attending this class, if you have been attending the class and you have been going through the instructional PowerPoint video that is always posted every week, you should be able to tackle this question when it comes. Another important point that I also want us to keep note of, these are likely questions that you should expect because we covered them. I think under Unit 2 and 3, we covered this. Components of primary health care. We also discussed about components of primary health care, where we mentioned 8 components. 8 components. And if you are alive or present in class, you should be able to remember the component of primary health care, the component of PHC. And for those of us that are around, if you still remember those components, you can list them on the charts. The components of primary health care. These are likely questions that you should expect. We've covered them. So they may come in your exam and they may not. But our advice that it's better you note them. In case they come, you are at better advantage to answer them. So another important point that I want you to note is the health status of an individual. Remember when we first started, we defined health according to WHO. It's important for you to be able to define health according to WHO. So in case it comes out in your exam, or in case it comes out in an exam, be prepared to answer something like that. The definition of health according to WHO, it's very important that you note it. And we also made mention that we have determinants, I think under Unit 1, we also covered determinant of health status of an individual. The determinant of health status of an individual. If such questions should come out in your exam, are you able to tackle it? How will you respond to such questions? So those are the things that I expect you to ask questions. Are you cleared with it? Because we have covered them. We have covered them. And so I'm expecting to see response on the charts. Component of primary health care. Definition of primary health care. Don't forget the 4 H's. The 4 H's. The acceptance. When you are defining primary health care, these 4 H's must be inclusive. Acceptance, accessible, affordable, and acceptance. Acceptance, accessible, available, and affordable. So these are very 4 key points that you mustn't forget while defining primary health care. So it's important. And we also made mention of the components. We've got component of primary health care. Those are very, very important areas that you need to get prepared. I'm not telling you to come out in exam, but based on what we have covered, and I told you that what will come out in your exam are basically what we have covered. So I'm only preparing you based on what we have covered, that if such a question should come out, because we have covered them, so you should expect them. If they come, you are better prepared, okay? And in, I think in Unit 5, under Unit 5, I think so, last week we finalized evaluation of health services. Such a question like component of evaluation process of health services. In health services, we have evaluation processes, which we covered last week. Yes, we covered it last week. If you are asked in an exam to discuss the component or explain or enumerate or list the components of health process evaluation, are you able to answer it if it comes out in an exam? These are the likely questions that you should expect. So another thing that I also want you to take note is the component of health. You know, when we were discussing, I think under Unit 3 or so, we said that we've got 4 components of health: the ecological concepts, the psychological concepts, the biomedical concept, and the holistic concept. All these concepts are very, very important, and I want you to take note of it. The concept of health. You may be asked in an exam to either list or to discuss the concept of health. So if it comes out in your exam, you should be able to answer them because we have covered them. It has been presented in instructional video that was provided to you on the VLE, and also during live class, it was also presented. Another important and point that I also want you to note is also the principles of global strategy for health. We also discussed that under Unit 4. Under Unit 4 or so, we discussed principles of global strategy for health. These are likely questions. You may be asked to identify, you may be asked to explain, you may be asked to describe, you may be asked to enumerate. So these are questions that, likely questions that will actually may come out in your exams. And at the beginning of this course, I said that the essence of providing you with all these resources is to reduce the massive failure among students. So it's not my joy for any student to fail. My joy and my hope is to see all of you pass this course. And that's why I keep asking and emphasizing that if there is any question, please bring question. Let's interact together. Whatever you're not clear with, whatever you don't understand, let's discuss about it. And so that whenever you meet a question, you can be better ready to answer the question. So from what I've mentioned so far to you, are there areas that you think you are not cleared with and you want me to explain? Don't forget that in the class, we are to interact. This is not a lecture, this is a feedback. Okay, Joanna, I can see your hand. Please, can you Okay, let me just unmute you and okay, you can unmute yourself and let's hear your question.
Good afternoon, ma.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for all this facilitation. I really enjoy it. Please, I want you to throw more light on principles of global strategies for health.
Okay. First, if I may ask, have you downloaded the instructional video on that unit?
I was not able to download it, but today, by God's grace, I will download.
Okay. Because if you have not gone through it, that means that's why you didn't understand. So what I appreciate is students have gone through the lecture. Like you, I think you're attending the class for the first time. If it's not first time, it must be second time. Your face is not familiar to me, including the name. That's why I tell students that all the avenues that is provided for students to learn is they're actually important. There's no way you would attend the class and listen to the instructional video and read your course materials that you will find exams difficult. Okay, so I'm going to give you an assignment. Okay, you go back and read, and when you don't understand, next week will be our final meeting day where students are to bring their feedback. Today is an interaction, we are just interacting. So note it and please be present next week when we have interaction, and encourage your colleagues also to join, okay? So read it. If you still did not understand, bring back the question, because now you've not read it. That's why you were not in class when it was discussed. That's why you are not understanding it. So it's like me repeating that class. Okay, any other thing? All right, the next that I want us to also take note is the structures of the Ministry of Health at the state level. I think that was unit 4 or so. Yes, under unit 4 we cover the federal, the states, and the local level of health ministry, and each of these ministry actually do have their own role. They have their responsibilities, and so we look at each of their responsibilities, and it's important that you note all their roles at the federal level, at the state level, at the local level. Peradventure it comes in an exam, you are better prepared to answer it. And so we also discuss under unit 4 the roles and the responsibility of a nurse in promoting healthcare. The roles and the responsibilities of a nurse of a primary healthcare nurse in providing healthcare. So go back and read your materials, listen to the class video that has been posted, also listen to the instructional video, read your course materials, and check out all these points, and you'll be good to go. And don't forget, next week is student feedback. Please come with your feedback on what we have covered so far on NSC 303. So if there is question, you are welcome to ask your question. You are welcome to give your contribution before we call it a day. Any question, any feedback on what we have just, on what we have been covering since beginning of this semester? Question, contributions. Yeah, I said it last week. Please go back, go through the lessons that we have covered, the units that we have covered so far since the beginning of this semester. Ask question. Let me have your feedback. Okay. So if you don't have any question and no contribution, I think we would end the meeting. Hopefully when we meet next week is the final meeting for this semester, and it is a feedback session, so you are expected to please come to class with your feedback. Okay, I'll be more than willing to throw in light on what we have covered, provided you have been attending the classes. Because if you have not been attending the classes and you just come and you want to take us back, that will not be fair on us. So please go through the materials and come with your feedback. Is that fine by us? If it's fine, can we just put yes on the chat? If you are okay with that, we'll be better prepared for feedback by next week. For your assignment, by God's grace, if you have not done your assignment, please submit your assignments latest tomorrow. I'll be grading all the assignments and close submission. You have today till tomorrow to submit your assignment. If you did not submit by tomorrow, I'm going to close submission opportunities. So please tell your friends to do the assignment, and when you are after you have done it, please submit a PDF format. Don't submit a Word, Microsoft format. Submit a PDF format. I'm going to be grading all the assignments from today to tomorrow. If by tomorrow I don't have your assignment, consider that it's not acknowledged and you've lost the reward for that. All right, then we would end the meeting. If you do not have any question or contribution so far on what we have covered this semester. So don't forget, your question or your contribution is based on what we have covered since the beginning of this semester. Not just one unit, everything that we have covered. Everything that we have covered. And also take notes of what I've shared with you today. Those are the things that are likely to come out, because those are basically what we've covered this semester. And I said you will not be examining outside of what we have covered. You will be examining based on what we have covered. So the ball is in your court now, left for you to do your homework, read your materials, listen to your instructional videos, and the class session also, listen to them. They are all provided on the VLE page, and I'm going to update the video. The ones that I have not posted, I'm going to post them before the end of this week. So for those of us that have been constant in class, please keep it up. I appreciate your presence. Thank you for always coming online for the class. And for those of us that we are joining for the first time, thank you also for making out time to join the class today. Very importantly, please don't forget, next week is our final meeting and it's a feedback. Come with your feedback, come with your questions, come with areas that you need clarification. No question is foolishly asked. Please write out what you want to know or what you need clarification, and it will be provided. So in the absence of no question or contribution, is it okay to end this class?
Ma, good evening. Good evening, ma.
Good evening.
Thank you for your wonderful presentation. Though I entered late, please, ma, I need more clarification on that. This thing, Health for All.
Can I see the face of the student I'm talking to, please?
Okay, ma. Good evening, ma.
Good evening. Good evening.
Ma, please, I need more clarification on that Health for All. As in, I used to see the question, as in, if they ask me, how will I put it? Because from the course material, it's just like an introduction or something of that nature, ma.
Okay. What is the question? Is it
Health for all, ma? Like the concept of health for all. That's
It's my first time of seeing you in class.
More clarification.
Okay. Today is your first time, right? Today is your first time of attending class. Today is your first time of attending.
No, it's not my first. No, ma.
It's my first time.
I've been frequent here. I've been attending your lectures, ma.
No, I know the student. I know like Rose said, she's a regular student. Yes, Abiola Janet, familiar. Folakemi. Yeah, I know students that have been attending classes. Yeah, if you have ever attended, this must be the second time, but it's fine. When you say health for all, you were not in class, okay? The first question I'm going to ask you is, have you downloaded the instructional video? Have you listened to it?
I've been listening to them, ma.
Okay, so tell me what you have picked so far.
I say it's from this Alma Ata Declaration of Primary Health Care, that there will be health for all by the year 2000 AD. So that health is going to be moved from the rural area, from the urban to rural area. Then from, there's a language you use there.
Okay, it's fine. You see, when you say the concept of health for all, it's simply to get healthcare service to everybody. That is, everybody should be able to access healthcare service irrespective of your location, irrespective of your status, whether you are poor or whether you are rich. It is the responsibility of the government to provide health services. And we also saw or discover or discuss in that course that we discovered that 80% of the resources are located in the urban area, whereas in the rural area where you have 80% of the population, where we have 80% of the population, the resources, the health resources are actually limited. And so for that reason, health for all, if you are asked, if you understand the concept of primary health care, is getting health services to individuals in their location, irrespective of where you are, especially in the urban, in the rural settings, being able to access health services at affordable costs. And it must be culturally acceptable. And it must be accessible to people. It must be acceptable to them. When we say acceptable, that means culturally that healthcare service is acceptable to them. And they don't have to travel from one province to another before they can access health service. Okay? And it is affordable. They can afford it. Those were the things. Once all those things are put in place in health service, then you see everybody will be able to access health service. And if everybody is able to access health service, that means health for all. Everybody can have access to health service and we have good health. Those, if you just understand that concept, then if it comes out in exam, you'll be able to tackle it. Yeah, you should be able to tackle it. All right, thank you. And every other question that you may have, every other question, I've been attending your class, okay. All right, so every other question, it's also important to understand and be able to define primary health care and their components. That also is a likely question that may come out. Must also be able to define health. What is health according to WHO? And what are the determinants for health status of an individual? Those are things that you should expect. We have covered them. And concept of health, component of evaluation process. So structures of federal, state, and local government, all those are likely questions. All right, then, any other question from any of the students? Don't forget, class is still in session, and let's throw in our questions and our contributions.
Thank you, ma.
Okay, if there is no question, I think we can end the class here. Hopefully, I will get more feedback from you when we meet next week. Next week is going to be our last meeting for this semester. Please, let's come with our feedback. If there is no question and you want us to end the class now, so you can also engage yourself in other activities that you have, can you put yes on the chat? Just type in yes, we can end the class here. Okay, I'll see you next week, same time, same day. Enjoy your evening and encourage your colleagues to please join next week, which will be our final meeting for this semester.